Thanks for downloading another segment from the Best of the Classic Metal Show. The Classic Metal Show is heard live on Saturdays from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com. And now here's another piece of Classic Metal Show history on the Best of the Classic Metal Show.
The Classic Metal Show.
Well, what do you say we get Mr. Popoff on the phone and see if he'll answer our call?
All right, well, I just got a couple of emails from him, and he is standing by.
Okay. Calling Mr. Popoff.
Hello?
Is this the great Mr. Popoff, the great author, writer of many of our favorite rock books ever?
Yes, very, very great. Absolutely it is. How are you, man?
It is Martin Popoff, the great Martin Popoff.
Absolutely, the great one, not the absolutely pathetic one.
Right. Well, Martin, how are you? We're glad to have you back on the Classic Metal Show.
Doing okay. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Well, Martin, next to Joel McIver, you are like one of the most prolific writers in rock and metal books. And,
yes, Joel's going to lap me soon, I'm sure.
And, well, the thing is that you have enough balls to come on our show and take phone calls.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Let's see who's out there.
Well, before we get into the phone calls, let's talk about your latest the latest books that you want to shill here on the Classic Metal Show.
Okay.
So what do you got for us?
Well, basically, the Deep Purple came out a little while ago. That's called Getting Tighter, Deep Purple 68 to 76, and I'm itching to get some time to get the second half of the career done. Soon as I get that one done, well, actually, the first half's already being translated into German, and the second half's going to be translated in German. It'll come out as one sort of 500-page book there. Let's see, just really, really new on the horizon. We're sort of taking pre-orders now, but there's a Worlds Away, the Voivod and the Art of Michel Langevin. So that's basically a big art book like the Derek Riggs book. But yeah, other recent ones, of course, is there's The Priest. I'm working the Ye Olde Metal series is up to 5 books now. So yeah, got to work on the next Ye Olde Metal, which should be Ye Olde Metal 79. But Ye Olde Metal 1978 came out a little while ago. Stars is on the cover. And so yeah, just trying to get into Deep Purple mode and cover off basically Perfect Strangers to the present day.
Excellent. Well, Martin, looking at the Deep Purple book, Getting Tighter, Deep Purple 68 to 76, I'm going to start right with the cover, sir, because Tommy Bolin on the cover, that is an interesting choice.
Yeah, I just thought we had a great shot of Tommy, and hadn't been seen before. A little bit different, rather than put someone sort of normal that we know on there. We like the colors, and he is the 76, so he is the last man standing kind of thing, I guess. And then he dies, of course. So yeah, it made a very nice cover. It was a good looking shot. A lot of people have commented on it. Most of them are just surprised, but they also think it's pretty cool just to do something different. Who the heck cares? When it comes to these sorts of things, I mean, it really almost doesn't matter what's on the cover. It's not like, I fret over it in a big way. It was just something to shake things up a little bit, and yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Absolutely, man. Now, looking through the book, the thing that I like best about this book, and I'm more curious where you get your knowledge from, but unlike most rock books that you read that are kind of, self-indulgent toward the band, this is really one of those books that just kind of, it doesn't seem like you're like, a diehard Purple fan from reading it. It just seems like you really did a lot of research and kind of tried to portray things in the real world instead of in the, wow, you guys are huge, this was great type of vein. Does that make sense?
Interesting. I am a diehard Purple fan, but, that's the reason I'm a diehard Purple fan is a little bit contrary. It's because I think they're probably my favorite band of the old guys that is making amazing music now. Like, I love all the Steve Morse albums. If you took my top 60 Purple albums, there'd probably be 2 or maybe even 3 from the Steve Morse era in there. So, I love the fact that they've got all these different marks and all these different players in it, and, they took a lot of risks all the time. But yeah, I love all that stuff. I love the new stuff, the middle stuff, the old stuff. But it may come off that way a little bit because there is a lot of, I wouldn't call it research. I've interviewed Deep Purple probably more than any band that I've ever interviewed. I mean, I've done 30 or 40 interviews with various members of Deep Purple over the years, and people who've known them and stuff. So, and I really love talking to those guys. They're great people. They're interesting, smart, mature. So there's a lot of their voice in there, I suppose. And my voice in there, I do my usual, I got to get my say in, because that's why we do these things, I suppose, right? Is to get our say in, to get our, our views off our chest and into print or on the air or whatever, just to have it out there that, hey, this is what we think, stick your hand up and yell in the wilderness about what you think about Deep Purple kind of thing. So there is some of that there, but there's a ton of information, yes, because I've talked to these guys so many times.
Sure. Now with Deep Purple, man, I mean, obviously from my view, where I've interviewed Ian Gillan once. That's the extent of my Deep Purple,
right.
talking to the guys. So I don't really have any kind of insight on them other than like every other fan that just sees them from the outside. Okay. Right. Now that being said, you've interviewed them so many times, and going back quite a ways, what are your observations of the changes of Ritchie Blackmore from back when he was clearly a rock guy to, now where he's a Renaissance fair music writer?
Yeah, I think he is a very contrary kind of guy. He likes to shake things up. He likes to do things different, surprise people, provoke people. But having said that, he always was a rock guy, and he basically defined heavy metal guitar. I mean, if you want to talk about standard traditional heavy metal and power metal and progressive metal and all that, he's your guy. He's your first guitar hero, and contributing for many, many years doing that, the whole classical bent. But, if you look at the interviews all through the years, he does periodically mention acoustic music and some of the old guys like Gordon Giltrap and Bert Jantz and all these guys. So he kind of always had this in him to do this. Now, who knows? Maybe it's a little bit of you want to travel lighter. You want to play lighter music. You don't want to have to play something that's so energetic. You get new challenges out of this. He said to me, like, you can't hide on acoustic guitar the way you can hide behind distortion volume when you're playing electric. So, it is surprising to everybody that he's done this for whatever it is, 7 or 8 studio albums and live albums and DVDs and stuff, and not gone back to the rock. Everybody's begging him to go back and do something heavy. I'd love to see him do something heavy. Joe Lynn Turner would love to get involved. I mean, they've got the Over the Rainbow band going, right? But no, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of reasons. Maybe it just has to do with, moving through phases in life. Maybe it's a bit of been there, done that with the heavy stuff. And, here he is trying to reinterpret all this old stuff. He's a very romantic, historical kind of guy as well. So he's living history, I suppose.
Well, Martin, swinging back to you personally and your ability to write as many books as you have, and the amount of content that you've put out over the years, I'm always interested in people who are prolific writers who can actually sit there in front of a PC and tap out a book. Have you always are you also the editor of your own books, or how does that work for just writing books? How does that work for you? Give me a day in a life of a Martin Popoff and writing a book.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they all have different deals. I mean, I've had a bunch of different publishers over the years. There's 27 books that have come out probably 12 totally different ways. I mean, I did a hardcover art book on the Backstage Pass, and I was paid in Backstage Passes, and I had to pay out money to lay that out, and one of my favorite paintings that I've done. So, weird things happen, right? Other things you get advances, other ones you don't get advances, other ones are like, some are excruciatingly edited by a proper publishing house like the Judas Priest book, like the Sabbath book. But the Purple situation is kind of interesting. I've been exploring this whole print-on-demand thing recently, and I've done the Yule Metal series that way and this one this way. So, If the editing is terrible in this, I don't know, but I mean, you could totally blame me because no, it doesn't go through any other hands. The Deep Purple basically goes from me straight to a print shop. The boxes show up in my office. I sell them. I sign them all and ship them one by one. The Deep Purple is not in any stores. But having said that, the second Deep Purple I'll do the same way, and once it's sort of run its course, I may try to go out and get a publishing deal for it. And, I'll probably do better financially on the Deep Purple than I will, on something big and crazy and impressive looking like the Priest book. It's just the new way of doing things, just the same way that's going on in the music business. So yes, the short answer, okay, day in the life, I mean, I'm basically writing this stuff, filling in the cracks of other things. We have the magazine, which is now out of business. Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles is no more as a print version, but it is still a thriving website. But I've got other little jobs, liner notes, work for other websites and magazines. And the other thing that's going on recently, I'm working on the official authorized Rush movie as a kind of part-time hired researcher dude by Sam Dunn and Scott McFadden, who did Global Metal and Metal Headbangers Journey and Flight 666.
Wow, look at you!
So,
you're a busy guy.
So yeah, it's basically the fully authorized official story of Rush, and that'll be in like theaters and on DVD and the whole bit. So the book stuff is the most satisfying thing because it is just this idea of getting all these disparate thoughts that have been going through your head forever, all this research, just compressing them down like a carbonic diamond hard rock into this thing you can hold in your hand. All the facts on this band that you've ever heard, that you can dig up, that you've done, talk to the guys, all in one place, so you could just flush it out of your brain and not think about it anymore. So that's why I love this book thing. I love information. I love kind of grabbing it and putting it all in one place.
Sure. Well, one of the things coming out of Canada is the Anvil movie. Have you seen it, and what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, the pathetic thing is because I just don't get out much, man. I don't go out. I've been asked. Lips said come over to the house and see it. Tim and I didn't go. Come over to this premiere and see it. Come over and see it at a film festival. Haven't gone. It's like Tim and I just Tim Henderson from the magazine, who I talk to 2-3 times a day, basically. We basically just say, dude, I'll see it when someone sends me the DVD and I'll pop it in. So no, I haven't seen it. I know all about it, and I've seen the trailers, and I've read all the press on it and stuff. And I'm just so happy for those guys that they're getting a little bit of recognition. The whole thing about they're gonna apparently back up AC/DC in 2 locations, right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And they'll, This is 13 will come out properly, and they're getting a lot of adulation. People just love that film, and they're just loving those guys, and it's great to see because they've been slogging around this town for forever, and doing this, being very productive, putting out albums all the time, playing live, great players. Lips is a great singer. He's underrated as a singer. Guitarist, frontman, you name it. So yeah, I just hope these guys can ride this for a little bit of fame.
Great. Well, Martin, I want to go back to the Priest book that we were talking about there at the beginning. This thing is by far, I mean, I don't have all of your books. In fact, I don't think I even have half of them, but I have about 8 or 9 of your books. And this is by far the most impressive of the books for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, I don't think you've ever thrown anything that you've ever been handed away, have you, from Judas Priest?
Well, actually, a lot of stuff from here, interestingly enough, is from a couple of buddies' collections down in the Baltimore area.
Okay.
So and the funny thing is, so I did this trip down there, and we did a lot of photography down there of their stuff. But the funny thing is some guys they know, friends of theirs who are just like a 20, 50 miles away or something. Doug Romer was the guy I visited to get all the memorabilia for the Sabbath book. That's similar. But the Priest book is actually better than the Sabbath book in that there's like 300 or 400 pictures of weird little memorabilia in here, like stand-up things and the front of tour programs and 45s from all over the world and photos. So, yeah, I mean, it is just really cool. I mean, every time I pick it up, I flip through and go, damn, we put that in? That is so cool.
Sure.
But my favorite stuff in it by far is the ads that you would see growing up as a kid, you know, turning the page of Cream Magazine or Circus or whatever it was and seeing Judas Priest has Sin for sale and seeing a Sin After Sin ad. You know,
right.
as a 14-year-old kid in rural British Columbia going, my God, a new Priest album. This is incredible. Look at this thing. You know, it would just blow you away when you would see an ad. You know, we were pretty savvy metalheads even at 14, right? We knew when stuff was coming down the pipes. But when you would see an ad for something that you didn't know was coming yet, like that, you know, and the Stained Class ad where they're all in front of that big church, it looks almost like the Bluish Occult on Your Feet or on Your Knees album cover, that ad, right?
Sure.
So yeah, my favorite thing in the Priest book and the Sabbath book is the old ads from the 70s. You know, it just brings back that time when you'd jump on your bike and bike home at lunch and hope, you know, that Circus with Ozzy on the cover was sitting in your mailbox or not, and you'd just be crestfallen for a day or two until it would arrive when it wasn't there, kind of thing.
Sure. Now, the one thing that I think above anything else that's been written about Priest, you are the sole writer that I've seen to this point that has given legitimacy and, you know, a solid piece of Priest history to the Ripper years. I mean, it's not like everybody else that gives the 1 or 2 pages saying, yeah, Tim was also in the band. You treated it like it was, which was 10 years with the band. So,
yeah,
you know, that all by itself is very impressive.
Man. Yeah, I really always, with all these books, it's the same thing. I mean, every album, people said that about the Sabbath, and they were really happy that, you know, all those Tony Martin albums in the Sabbath book were covered in total detail, right? So, yeah, you're right. I mean, all of these books are written pretty much the same way, even though obviously the production values between the Deep Purple and the Priest are a mile away, kind of thing. You know, one's just black and white. I mean, the Purple's got a lot of pictures and memorabilia in it too, but the thing I try to do with all of them is cover up every album and every song, and just, you know, I like it when you're reading a bio and it sends you back to those albums and you play them again. I get those emails all the time. It's like, dude, I pulled out that album and played the whole album while I read that chapter. You know, and that's why, yeah, the Ripper stuff, I wanted to cover it off because, you know, I'm not crazy about those Ripper albums, but, you know, then again, the albums around it by Priest were not great either. You know, there's other Priest albums that are probably equally, shall we say, dated or trying to be young or whatever you want to bring up, right?
Well, you know, the Priest albums, they're certainly not as good as, like, the perfect albums like Kick Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely. Kick Tracy. Yeah, they were one of my favorite hair bands. Those guys. Them and Love Hate, of course.
Well, we're gonna have Jizzy on the show next week, as a matter of fact.
Oh, cool. Tell him I said hi, man. I love that guy. That guy is so talented. That band should have just been the biggest of all of those bands. Way bigger than Guns N' Roses.
Well, Martin,
that Wasted America album's a masterpiece.
Excellent. Well, while we're chatting here, I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines. I'll give people the number here to call. So here goes.
Hello? The CMS phone lines are now open. Give us a call at 1-800-497-5891 and let your opinion be heard. Call now. It's 1-800-497-5891.
The Classic Metal Show.
Cool.
Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air with Martin Popoff.
Fuck you! Fucking cock-ass!
Jesus Christ.
Nice, love it.
That was it? Holy shit.
Wow.
All right. Well, we got the phone lines open, 800-497-5891.
Real open.
Well, we don't have a screener here, Martin.
Cool.
Well, Martin, real quick, man, I'm curious, since you are a Priest aficionado, what's your impressions on Nostradamus now that you've had a year to live with it?
Man, yeah, I can't dig into it. I can't get into it. I just wish the sort of synthesizer type sounds weren't there. I just wanted a fast and heavy album, not that long. I wanted fast songs, just like basically every old school Priest fan. I mean, it was very brave of them to do that, and there's a lot of work that went into it. There's some really, actually my favorite stuff on it is kind of the mellower tunes. Which is really kind of weird. So there's a lot of cool, mature stuff going on it, but I could not penetrate that album and really get into it in a big way. I mean, Angel of Retribution had a lot of really cool tunes on it.
Sure.
And everybody who kind of follows Priest figures that Resurrection was the Priest album that everybody should have done. And that record it's a great record, but again, it almost goes the other way. It's almost like too safe, too expected. I mean, it's almost designed by the fans. So, who knows? I think, obviously, they'll bounce back with something a little more immediate, I imagine.
Hail and Kill, caller. You're on the air with Martin Popoff.
Yeah, this question is for Martin.
Hey,
have you ever written anything that you knew was true but knew that no one would agree with you or no one would like, but you still kept it in anyway?
You mean in the biography stuff or reviews?
Really anything.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some kind of contrary views. I mean, I can't think of what reviews off the top of my head, but I've definitely said a lot of things that I know a lot of people weren't going to agree with me on. Off the top of my head, Stairway to Heaven, I've gotten a lot of emails when I said, Stairway to Heaven would have made a great B-side or whatever, because I think that song is barely written. I just don't like it. I mean, I don't like the fact that the movements of it are all kind of dull and you put them all together, blah, blah, blah. I think there's a lot of, there's definitely a lot of things where I know I'm going to get a lot of abuse for saying it, for sure.
But
you mean like saying that Shadow Life by Dokken was a good record?
That's funny you bring that up, because I listened to all of those bands at the same time on Cheese and Metal Cemetery were trying to make their smart, mature album, and Warrant was the same way, and those records, I did like those records. I thought, it was cool. Def Leppard Slang, I think, is better than Euphoria and all those ones around there. So, I mean, I was right in there agreeing that, hey, it was time for something different, and I'm glad those bands did that stuff. I love the whole grunge movement. I thought that was not a metal killer. I thought those bands were amazing. Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Mudhoney, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, incredible metal. I mean, I was right along with everybody cheering that it was great that there was a house cleaning against hair metal, and those were the bands doing it, because they were killer bands, those guys.
Yeah, Nirvana was okay, but I mean, Stone Temple Pilots, they were pretty good. Soundgarden, but I mean, dude, come on, man. Some of those that you just named, though. I mean, Warrant, and especially the Dokken record.
Yeah.
Dude, even
Belly to
Dokken
Belly,
like
Volume 1 or whatever it's called. Yeah.
Was that it, caller?
That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, if you want to talk to Martin Popoff, 800-497-5891. 800-497-5891. You got another caller already. Hail and Kill, caller. You're on the air with Martin Popoff. No, I guess not. So, try it again. Hail and Kill, caller. You're on the air.
Martin.
Yeah.
Sure. You received a BA in English from the University of Victoria in 1984. And shortly after that, an MBA in marketing at McMaster University in 87. Then you were working for Xerox. My question is, what's it like to write a book?
Well, I was amazed at how bad a writer I was in the beginning. I mean, it's debatable now. I guess I stand by most of the things I've written in the last 10 years, but it is pretty incredible, I think, how awful I'm pretty sure I was, having done that schooling and really only started when I was like after 30 years old or whatever doing this. I mean, a lot of guys start in their early 20s. So, yeah, it's been weird that I ended up there, but I've been a complete metalhead my whole life. I mean, the first book was a self-published book, and it was taking 1900 heavy metal records and writing reviews of them all. And, again, it's just this organizing everything in one place. So I just love being that information gatherer guy. Heck, I'd like to do books that are just discography books. I just love gathering all that data. So it's definitely a fun, satisfying job, and I like it more than the whole treadmill that was magazines, because you do this stuff and it's done forever. Especially when you're writing something totally historical like the Ye Olde Metal series, where Ye Olde Metal 1977. I mean those 14 records in there from 1977 are not changing anytime soon. So it's not even like they're books I even have to update. They're done forever. So that's what I like as well, just the permanence of it.
Sure. Now, Martin, one thing that I know that you did our friend Bill Peters' show, and one of the things that you said was that you didn't think that Ian Gillan was a great singer. You thought he was just kind of a slightly above average singer. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, Ian Gillan, it's funny. I love that guy, and I'm just amazed at what he has done with lyrics, with being a frontman, with singing, with the whole career. He's just an amazing, amazing person as an all-rounded guy. But I think he would be mature enough to say that praising someone for their voice is not even really much praise at all. It's like it's just like saying some chick is hot or whatever, right? It's like, well, it's nothing I did that made me hot. It's just the way I grew up, and a voice is just someone's pipes. I mean, you can do some things to it, obviously, to make yourself a better singer. But Ian Gillan, I've always loved Purple, and I've loved this guy being up there in front of Purple, but his voice is kind of just this voice that's there. He was one of the first guys who was instrumental in screaming and being over the top, but it always had kind of like a thin, reedy quality to it. I think he's a much better singer than a guy with a great voice.
Okay.
And as a stylist and as a lyricist, him working with Roger Glover and all the stuff they've done over the years, an amazing, amazing guy. But no, he doesn't stand out. And almost the reason I call that out and say that is because I do see a lot of guys saying, "Oh, Ian Gillan, one of the greatest vocalists of all time." Well, there's a whole lot of other classic metal bands that are overpowered by their vocalist because he's an amazing vocalist, and I don't think Deep Purple's one of those.
Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Mr. Popoff.
Hey, how are you?
Good. It's Jason Myers from Icarus Witch. How you doing, buddy?
Cool. Doing fine.
Hey, go Penguins. First, I got to get that out of the way. I know you're an old Penguins fan as well.
Yeah, that was very cool to see. We were on the edge of our seat watching that. That was amazing. I didn't think they were going to pull it off, but
that's hockey, cool. Right?
Yes, Chris.
Thanks for calling Sports Center. You're on the air.
I knew that would get under the Cleveland guys' craw there, but anyways, I just wanted to call and say hi. I've been meaning to talk to you for a while, and been meaning to call my buddies at the Classic Metal Show, so I thought I'd kill two birds with one stone.
Cool.
Let you know that the Blue Oyster Cult book rules. I'm still need to get the upgraded version of it, and I still read the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal pretty much every day. Used it today to get a couple things off of eBay, so that's a good plug. If anybody out there is into this show, then you should pick up your Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal.
Yeah, that brings up a point. I mean, the 97 version of that book, I'm totally, completely embarrassed by the writing of it. I can't pick it up and look at it. I mean, that was split into 3 decades. There's a 70s, an 80s, and a 90s book now, and combined it's like 7,500 reviews or whatever. But the oldest reviews that have been written have been patched over and re-edited and rewritten so many times that I'm finally at a point with the newer versions of the book that I can kind of live with it. But again, that comes from the old writing, and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of things in those books that I'm scared to even look up and read. Again, it's like I'm amazed. Like, damn, how could I be such a terrible writer? With all that university and being in my 30s and whatever. And that's why there are editors out there for books. I mean, they will pull out the bad writing and call you on it, and they sweat bullets over it, and that's and so the Wild West of just doing things and putting them out is not always the best thing to do. So,
Martin, are you still comfortable with the 2 out of 10 you gave the last Icarus Witch record?
I never gave Icarus Switch 2 out of 10. Come on. I like those. I love those guys. I think they're doing a great job.
Martin's been an early supporter and a long supporter, so nice try, Chris.
Thanks, man.
No, but all self-criticism aside, I mean, the early version of the collector's guides, I wore that out, but, yeah, you're right. The new one, I like the 80s in particular, as it pertains to this show, and the 70s. They're just such useful books. I mean, you've done so much work for everybody to just be able to sit down there, open to any page, and learn about a new band that might be your favorite band, and then you go on and, like I said, go on to eBay or Amazon and order the CD, and it's like it's amazing how much stuff is out there, and I appreciate all the work that you've done chronicling it for us.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. I mean, they are reviews, so of course it is buyer beware, and there's a lot of stuff people will disagree with. But, you read enough of that stuff, and you quickly realize, where, A, my strengths and weaknesses are in even knowing what the hell I'm talking about, and also, what stuff I tend to like and tend not to like, right? So, like any critic, I guess you got to read and say, I kind of know this guy. I'm reading between the lines. I'm thinking what he's thinking, and I'm probably not going to like this as much as he does,
Sure. But even just the descriptions, the genre descriptions, bands that you never heard of, if you compare them to a couple other bands, go online, listen to a couple samples, and off you go. So,
yeah, for sure.
Very useful stuff.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to call and say hi. It's been a while, so take care, and I'll let somebody else talk to you now.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right, bye.
Hi, James.
All right, 800-497-5891. We got Martin here for a few more minutes, so if you want to call in and talk to Martin Popoff, 800-497-5891.
I do want to make the point, too, talking about the book that Jason mentioned, the Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal, Volume 2, the 80s. If you purchase that one, this is no fact, but you get a killer CD of really rare tracks from, a bunch of really good bands, including like Slayer and Bitch and Fate's Warning. Lots of good stuff. Hellstar. So that's a nice little bonus for a $10, $15 book on Amazon.
Yeah, we had Brian from Metal Blades, a buddy of mine. So we had Brian put discs, make exclusive sampler discs for the back of the 80s and the 90s book, and then the 70s one is Monster Records, which is now switched over. They've changed the name of the label, but basically it's a bunch of like crazy 70s rarities that were reissued, kind of thing.
Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air with Martin Popoff.
Hey guys, I'll be damned. I got through.
Hey, how are you?
All right, Martin. I wondered if you had the same problem as I did. I've done some reviews in the past, and I found that I had a problem, kind of a little bit of a difference between listening to music as a fan and just listening to music as somebody that has to review it and sit down and just write about it. Do you find there's two different ways to listen to music, or is it all the same to you?
Well, I think the thing I find is when it gets to be a real assembly line and you got to do a whole bunch of reviews and you're pulling stuff out and playing it, and it's not really something that's up your alley, and you got to read the bio, and you don't know the band implicitly, right? When any of the old guard puts an album out, and I know all of those bands up, down, left, and right, I can just go right to the abstracts, the meat of the matter, the cool philosophical stuff, and say a whole bunch of things that are really satisfying for me to say, and they're like cool insights and stuff that is like 2 or 3 levels above, like say when a Deep Purple album comes out or whatever, right? I mean, I know I'm going to write some good stuff, and it's going to be easy talking about, and people are going to say, wow, that's a pretty cool review. But, if I'm forced to write something on I'll give you an example. I mean, Dream Theater. I mean, we all talk about Dream Theater. It's like, oh my God, do I have to write something about these guys or interview them or whatever? And, we all have over the years, but I know there's so many people I know that are just intimidated, to over their head on that band, and I'm one of them. I mean, I am not the guy that knows every Dream Theater album up and down, left and right. Frankly, I don't really know a lot of the personality differences between quite a few of those albums. So when you find something that completely intimidates you, it's a real chore to write.
But you don't want to be
it.
the one guy that misses something that's really glaring and all the fans will pick up on.
Yeah, and you got to, you're trying to make sure you don't say something stupid that is kind of like way off the mark. So, yeah, that's why I feel like as the years go on, I'm just becoming more and more of a historian. I'm only writing about stuff that I really, really know. I felt all the kind of new metal kind of going through my hand like grains of sand, probably starting at about the year 2000. I was up on everything up until about the year 2000. And then I just said, right, and all of us writers have been talking to each other and saying the same thing. It's like, damn, I guess we now specialize. We really can't know everything. We don't know everything. We basically have our areas of strength, and that's what we're going to deal with because there's just way too much out there.
Okay, well, how about another follow-up to that question? Have you ever written something as kind of your assembly line way of doing it and just not really been into it, and then later maybe just put it on to kind of relax and chill out and just headbang a little bit and discovered you really, really liked it?
Yeah, that's definitely happened a lot of times where you go back and read the review you wrote and you kind of were writing it as not an insider and yeah, things later on you've totally become an insider. I mean, one that comes to mind all the time is the album Vi by Steve Vi, Sex and Religion. It was just called Vi, right? And Devin Townsend sung on it, right? And I wrote this review, and I was saying weird things like, this is grungy, or like all these strange, disparaging comments on it. And now it's like one of my favorite albums of all time, and I'm going like I don't know where I was coming from. And well, I do know. I mean, I was a stranger to it. And then, I probably wrote the review playing it 1.5 to 2.5 times, and now that I've played it like 80 times, now I should just totally redo that and renounce everything I said on it before, It's funny, I'll tell you another really embarrassing story. I mean, I remember writing a review, I don't know if it ever actually came out this way, but I remember writing a review complaining about the production values on a Megadeth album, right? And later on in the day after writing this, I realized that we had a power outage, and when the power came back on, all my tone controls went to flat. So all the treble and the bass was all turned down, and I didn't realize this. The stereo I was playing it on, all my tone controls went to flat, and here I'm going, oh my God, I'm writing this review saying this album sounds like crap, and all my bass and treble was turned off. How gay is that, right?
No wonder it sounded like shit.
Yeah. So, yeah, funny things that happened.
Is that it, Doghouse?
Thanks, Martin.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, Martin,
Martin, what is this? Just a real quick one. From going through the collector's guide books, I've noticed that you have a couple of zeros in there. Of those albums, what would you define as the worst record you've ever had to suffer through? Because I noticed on the one you really smashed on Sammy Hagar.
And I love Sammy now. That's the thing. Like there's another guy where like I was the angry, mid-years guy. I was probably into more. I was probably into grunge and progressive rock and all this stuff. And Sammy, I was just listening to these albums and not liking the songwriting. And now Sammy's like one of my favorite guys. He's so inspirational to talk to. I play all those records no matter how not heavy some of them are.
Right.
I just love talking to that guy. And I feel bad writing those reviews, although I stand by this whole thing about how I hate when songs have like a little riff, and then when the singing comes in, like the chord just goes dan dan dan, and then goes back to the music, and then dan, and he sings the verse again. The lazy hanging chord, I think I call it, right?
Right.
So you're right. I mean, I was really ragging on a lot of those Sammy albums, and and now that's the other thing. As the years go on and you get older and you start listening to albums from the 70s and 80s from a more nostalgic point of view, it takes you back to a time, and you're a little kinder on them. But the one that everybody brings up all the time is like Def Leppard Hysteria, which I gave a 0 and a real scathing review. And I was really angry at that album, and I still don't like that album. I hate the production and the vocals and the lyrics and everything about it. It was just like so overproduced and bland and commercial and dumbed down to like an incredible level. So yeah, there's zeros. You know, I really popped off on a few things here or there. You know, you just get really angry and you think, yeah, now I'm going to write, you know, everything, you know, I want to say mad about this band, you know. I feel like there's an Aerosmith sold out essay in me someday that's going to be 10 pages long. And it's just going to be this real hate screed. But yet Aerosmith is like one of my favorite bands of all time, like one of the greatest American rock and roll bands ever. And I would love to keep talking to those guys. And I hope they come back with a heavy record. But, you know, there's a lot of things like that where I think like a lot of guys just lost the plot and you just get so mad you want to strangle them, right?
Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, boys. This is Sister Bertha Bangers.
Oh, boy. What's up, Sister Bertha Banger?
Well, first of all, I want to say one thing. And, you know, it's been about a year since we talked.
Right.
And I wanted to say one thing before we go any further.
Okay.
And if you want to find out more about me, go to BerthaBangers.com. Now we can move on.
Okay. Well, you got a question for Martin Popoff?
Yeah, you know, I think I'm a big fan of one of his relatives. And I wanted to find out for sure if he's related.
Okay.
Peter Popoff, right?
Yeah, that's right. Televangelist Peter Popoff and his miracle spring water. You could put a little on your herpes chancre to get rid of it.
Right on. That's my dad.
That's your dad?
Absolutely. No, I'm kidding. I've never heard of the guy. I've never met him. I'm not related to him at all, but people do ask me that all the time. It is pretty funny. The other guy is Jay Popoff from Lit, remember? Remember the band Lit?
That's
big,
right.
Heavy alternative band?
That's
amazing
right.
that guy's got my same last name. I interviewed him once, and we go, man. How
but it truly is a rare last name, and I thought for sure he's related to Peter Popoff.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let me ask you, though, what do you do when your Peter pops off?
Oh, well, that's a fairly private question that maybe I shouldn't go on into on here.
All right, if you want to talk to Martin Popoff, 800-497-5891.
Good Lord.
So let me ask you something, Martin. Do you ever listen to the Classic Metal Show outside of being a guest on it?
I pretty much don't listen to anything on the internet. I have to listen to CDs all the time. So, you know, I occasionally I get turned on to radio stuff. Tim sends me stuff. But no, there's not very much I can play on the internet because I have to be. Anytime I even throw on anything for pleasure, I'm thinking, damn, you know, somebody's looking over my shoulder and telling me you got to be playing CDs, you got to review, because my output has gone down so much when it comes to CD reviews that you know, I really have to just play stuff that I got to review, man.
Sure. Hail and kill, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Mark, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, have you ever had an album, you'd hear it years later and think, gee, I was really wrong when I wrote the review about this? And do any of them come to mind? Any certain records come to mind?
Boy, yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier.
I was going to say one question ago.
Yeah. What, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things I definitely ended up liking more. I mean, the other direction, liking less. I mean, there's a lot of things where you do get overexcited. You know, I'll tell you a funny one. I was definitely, for that brief little instance, caught up in the whole, you know, Offspring and Green Day situation when that came out, right?
Jeez.
Didn't last very long, but I just thought, this is pretty energetic, cool music to be hearing. It's fast, it's revved up, it's melodic again. You know, and very quickly I didn't care again. But a lot of that happened, and you know, I suppose there were, you know, we talked about Warrant and Dawkins and that stuff, like when all those bands were making their little alternative records. You know, I definitely also know that I've written reviews where you get some huge, massive album in, and you want to review it immediately, and you do. And it's so immediate, you write this big, long review on the same day, and then, you know, the review goes out there, and then, you know, months and weeks later, you've played it a bunch of times and think, damn, I guess I was wrong about this. I should have played it a few more times. So we're all guilty of that, I think. You just want to get something out there about it. I mean, I reviewed the Guns N' Roses Chinese Democracy thing off of all the demos and put out a review of that, and then people just were emailing me for months before the album came out. And essentially, I mean, that thing was out and available and sitting on YouTube for forever, essentially in the same format that it came out with minor differences. So yeah, it's strange. It definitely happens in both directions.
Sure. Well, Martin, we always appreciate you having your input here on the Classic Metal Show, and of course, Chris and I both would welcome you back at any time. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell the fans?
Well, I don't know. I guess keep an eye out for this official authorized Rush movie that we're working on. That'll be out in early next year. Other than that, I'll just keep toiling away. All the books are available at martinpopoff.com. They're all explained in full. There's all prices for different territories, and it seems like everybody pays with PayPal these days. But yeah, that's all there. No, just working away on a few more books, and probably spending more time on the Rush movie in the next little while, but I want to get the Ye Olde Metal series into the 80s and get those ones out because a lot of people are asking for those. Other than that, I've got no other big rock biographies planned. I did just put out the Blue Oyster Cult book again, which was kind of neat. It's got 174 pictures in it now, an extra 100 pages. That is actually probably the most interesting out of all the rock bios. So that thing just came out. And one thing that made me put it out is that Albert and Joe Bouchard were coming to Toronto and to play a couple of gigs, and they're kind of buddies of mine, and they kindly signed about 170 copies of the thing for me, and those went really fast. So that was cool. They're coming back in August. So yeah, might reissue the UFO book at some point, and again, just add a bunch of photos and things like that. And that's really the plans. I've been laying kind of low, I suppose.
Right. Well, Martin, I'll hit you off with this off air too, but you got to help us get Sam Dunn on the show, because I am a gigantic fan of his work. That guy's
cool. Well, that shouldn't be too hard. That should be pretty easy.
I wouldn't think so, but of course we've never been able to get him for whatever reason, and I can't tell you how much I like the Headbangers Journey movie. That movie is unbelievably good.
Huh. Cool. Well, right now is the time when they've just put out a movie. I mean, the Maiden movie comes out on DVD like yesterday or something.
Right.
So it's and you're right. I mean, I'm amazed that you haven't been able to get them, but you are right that boy, they get a lot of press and a lot of big press. But yeah, it shouldn't be hard to get you an interview with Sam. We'll get that going.
Excellent. All right, Martin. Well, again, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us and take our goofy callers. And
well, thank you. No, this has definitely been very cool.
And we'll be glad to have you on anytime. Anytime you want to come back on, and as many times as it takes to have you on more times than Talking Metal.
Okay, very cool. Well, thanks again, and we'll keep in touch.
All right. Well, since we were talking about Deep Purple and you got the Deep Purple book out there, I thought maybe we'd end this interview with Stormbringer. How about that?
Oh, beauty. Yeah, a totally heavy track from a not very totally heavy album.
Okay. Well, here it is. It's Deep Purple with Stormbringer, and go over and visit Martin Popoff over at martinpopoff.com and go pick up his books. God damn it.
That's right.
So here it is. It's Deep Purple exclusively here
on your Classic Metal Show.
Thanks for checking out the best of the Classic Metal Show. You can tune into the Classic Metal Show live every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern, exclusively at www.theclassicmetalshow.com.
The Classic Metal Show.